Hey, Jerry from Bliz Studio, and in the last tutorial, what did we do? We put together a camera shake system. So we created effects for small, medium, and large, and we can use those for any of our different types of events. Cool. So what's coming up in this one? We're gonna start making this look good by adding some materials to our paddle and our ball. We're actually gonna change the background color, and then we're also gonna add post-processing. And post-processing will be able to add all kinds of different types of looks to the game, which is gonna make it look really good. Please share these tutorials so I can grow the channel. And if you're ready to get started, let's go. Okay, so now we are back in Unity and I want to start making this look pretty. Now we've kind of just started out with very, very plain looking scene. So let's go ahead and jazz it up just a little bit. So the first thing I'm gonna do is to change the skybox from being the skybox to just a solid color. So let's go ahead and add that. I'm going to change this to be something maybe a little bit on the darker side. And yeah, I think that looks okay. So we're going to go ahead and go with that. Then the next thing I want to do is to start adding some materials to our game objects. So let's go ahead and go over into, I already have a materials folder set up. And so I want to create a new material. So let's create a material for our ball. So ball material. And then I need to apply that to my ball. So I'm going to go ahead and just apply it. And then with the material selected, I want to determine exactly what I want. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is to change my ball color. So I'm going to change it from white to be a different color. So let's maybe go again with that pink, maybe kind of keeping it fairly light and bright. Then I'm also, I want to set this to have emission, so it has light to it. So I'm going to turn on emission. And then I need to choose what the color of the emission is. So let's go with that kind of like pinky color, so it's nice and bright. Yeah, I think that works pretty good. So then I want to also set up the paddle to have its own material. So let's go ahead and add a new material for the paddle. So create material, and we'll call this paddle material. And then I'm gonna add that to my paddle. And then I need to go ahead and determine what I want the paddle to look like. So let's go ahead and change the color of this, maybe to be a little bit on the kind of yellowy orange side. And let's go ahead and have this have a slight emission as well. So it's nice and bright. Kind of a little bit on that orangey side. Yeah, there we go. And let's go ahead and just give this a test real quick just to see what it looks like. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah. There we go. I think this is looking fun. Cool. So the other thing that I want to do is to add some post-processing. Okay. So if you didn't start out with a URP project, which already has post-processing installed, you can all go to the package manager to download and install post-processing. So I'm going to go ahead and go open my package manager. And if you don't have post-processing selected, you can just type in post-processing right there. I'm going to go ahead and install. Okay, so now I have post-processing installed. Now we can go to our camera, and I'm going to add a component for post-process layer. So I want to add that to my camera. And then immediately I'm going to go ahead and you can see that I now have anti-aliasing selected. I want to go ahead and have this on. And that's going to smooth out my surfaces just a little bit. Then I need to go ahead and set up the layer that the post-processing is attached to. So currently it's set to nothing. And if we look on any of the game objects that we have, like our ball, it has a layer of default. So if we want the post-processing to work with that, we can go ahead and assign that to that layer. So we can either assign the layer to the post-processing to that layer or vice versa. It depends on how you want to set up your game. So I'm going to go back to my camera and set the post-processing to be everything. So it's going to include both the UI and the game objects. Cool. So now we've have that set up. Let's go ahead and create a new game object over here. So create an empty. We'll call it post processing. And with that, now we need to go and add a component. So we're going to add a post process volume. Then we need to create a new post processing profile. So I'll click new. Okay, so now that we have the post processing set up, we can go ahead and start adding effects to our scene. So let's go and add an effect. And the first thing I want to do is add some bloom. I like a little bit of bloom. Okay, so first we're going to go ahead and click on intensity and jack that way up. So there we go. We now have some bloom. Then we can look at the threshold, where that cuts off at. So how intense the different colors or where that gets impacted. So again, that's just kind of a feel kind of thing. Then the next thing I'm going to do is to add a little bit of lens distortion. So again, I'm going to add a new effect. So let's go ahead and turn bloom down and add a, let's see, lens distortion. And here I'm going to change the intensity so you can see that how that's going to affect the scene depending on what I want to accomplish here. So I'm going to just maybe have that be distorted slightly on the negative side. That looks kind of cool. Then let's go ahead and just play around with some of the effects. Let's go ahead and add another one. Maybe vignette. And so we'll add a vignette. So vignette's where you can make the outside of the screen either dark or light. So what we're gonna do here is classic is fine. And we need to change the intensity. So here we can make the outside a little bit on the darker side. And then here's where we choose that color. And now we're starting to kind of like look really, really cool. So let's go ahead and play this real quick just to see what it looks like. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah. Boom. That's starting to look kind of fun, isn't it? So there we go. We have now started to make our game look kind of cool. In this tutorial, we put together some really cool look for the game. We added materials for the ball and the paddle, added some background color, and then also put together some post-processing and some effects in the post-processing. So what's coming up in the next tutorial? We're actually going to be adding particle effects to the background and then also adding a particle effect to the paddle so that when the ball hits the paddle, it's going to kind of do a little particle effect. And please don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and that little bell icon down there so you know when the next tutorial is available. And again, please share these tutorials. And until next time, peace.